welcome to day 2 of the summit that I'm running, which is focusing on healing after miscarriage, but we're also going much wider than miscarriage. It's really looking at empowering you to improve, uplift, elevate your entire health so you can really come into balance and alignment and have energy and feel amazing. And I'm so excited to introduce you to the amazing Shelley Gawith. I have worked with her for a number of years, and I'm working with her more closely now than I have before. And she's a functional nutritionist and she's a genius. And Shelley, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for hosting this and for sharing your really vulnerable story around your experience so that you can educate and help and empower more amazing women.
Thank you. Yeah. It felt really important just to talk about something that isn't talked about that often. You know, we often don't talk about, even say that we're pregnant until we get to 3 months. And there are many reasons for that, just having privacy or wanting to be in that cocoon phase. However, I think it's sad that we don't talk about it because just in case we lose a baby and that's some kind of failure or something, which of course it's not. And so I just felt it was really important to talk about that and to move through the emotions. But that was yesterday. Today, we're talking about really how we can empower us to be as healthy as possible so we can have really healthy bodies and babies if we choose to. And also, I'd really love you to talk about the things you empowered me around, which were the most likely, of course, we can never know 100%, but the most likely causes for my miscarriage. And we can talk a little bit about that as well and what we discovered and what you're helping me with.
Thank you, Penny, and thank you for allowing us to talk about your story, because that is hugely vulnerable and a lot of people don't like to. And also being pregnant as we record this, I've got the easiest way to look at it is 9 weeks to go, and that's how I'm now on the countdown phase. But like you, I also announced that I was pregnant really early, and I'm only sharing this because I think there's a couple of things that are really important around this, and I was really intentional with sharing it early. Despite, my husband kind of didn't have much of a choice because I'd already made up my mind that I really wanted to do that, for the very reason that I feel like, yes, I totally agree about the cocoon and the family, and we all have our journeys and callings for what our life is like, right? But I knew that my journey up until now and being pregnant was always to share the things that people weren't necessarily willing to talk about, nor did they want to. And it doesn't mean that I'll ever share Jeff, my husband's story, or my family story. I'll stick to talking about me. That's why when Penny's like, oh, you can talk about me too, I'm like, oh, that's unusual. I'm so used to always having to keep everything like about the other person quiet, but I can always talk about it from my point of view. And so while my family teases me that they feel like I've been pregnant for a lot longer than what I have been, and it will be the longest pregnancy ever, because I told everyone at 4 weeks and 1 day, like literally the day I peed on the step, 2 days later, I told everyone. And my thing around it and why was I wanted to share the journey. I didn't know, like, I'm a health practitioner, and talk about needing to really be brave to be a health practitioner and talk about being pregnant at the 4 week and 1 day mark. Before, you don't really know if everything you know and everything you've taught and everything you've told everyone else, how's it going to play out in your life? Now you're on this pedestal of everyone watching and being like, really? Does she know what she's talking about? And the other reason is if something did happen, because it can happen to all of us, we're all human, right? Like, we're all on this journey, we're all learning. Maybe I'm further along in some parts of the journey than you or somebody else, but somebody else is further apart in another aspect of the, like, being pregnant journey and pregnancy and emotions and spirituality and physical and all the things that it brings up. And so I know my lane very well, but I don't know all the other things. So for me, it was like, it's so, what I'd seen after 8 years of working with people one-on-one was how incredibly lonely the pregnancy journey can be, and unsupported. And when you do lose a baby, how people blame themselves. Mums will blame themselves and feel like they're not good enough and there was something wrong with them. And what did they do? So as women, we often go into that place naturally anyway. So I wanted to have a different way of looking at it as well, an empowered way. And then the other thing is around your thought process, because the thing that I've always really questioned, and obviously I got pregnant later in life, so I've had a lot of years to watch on, not judge, but just watch on. And I'm like, where's the mind piece of not telling everyone you're pregnant. What are you actually saying? Do you really believe you're going to have this baby? Or are you in fear? Are you coming from love or fear? And how much is the mind playing around the protection? And I know with different things, we can tell ourselves we're going to have a great day and we have a great day. And we can tell ourselves we're going to have a terrible day and we have a terrible day. Like you can, so how much does that play in the first 12 weeks of pregnancy as well? Where it's like, you can be so fearful of, and I'm not saying we create this. I don't mean it like that at all. But I do know the power of our minds in terms of the positivity we can create. Like our minds are so powerful. We can create amazing things. Like, I tell my sisters all the time that I'm my parents' favorite child and I'm naturally my parents' favorite child, or we can say we're going to get a car park and we miraculously get a car park. Well, nobody else gets a car park because you truly believe it and you're intentional and you put it out there. So the thing that I struggled with, while I 100% respect people's privacy, but by saying I'm not, and not everyone that keeps it quiet is saying this, but a lot of people that I listen to clients, because that obviously have to tell me very early on over the years. Like I would know often before the parents that came to see me and the sisters and the cousins and everyone else, and I'd have to be like, don't say anything. But when you're not saying anything because you're scared, and they'd say to me, oh, what if I miscarry? What if something happens in the early weeks? I don't want anyone else to know. And I'm like, but the fact you're already putting that fear out there, the fact that you're actually putting that intention and creating that already, what is that doing for you? What is that doing for your partner, your nervous system, our body's ability to relax and be calm, and all that? One of the things we'll talk about tonight with your nervous system. So now you're creating this stress response in your body all day, every day, to go looking for fear. And the other crazy part is, and like I say this in love, and maybe it's not appropriate to say it now, but all my family knows that I say this. My little baby, Harvey, who I've named Harvey, he's a parasite. Like babies are literally parasites in your body, right? And what I find really fascinating, I think when we go back to what's actually happening in our bodies, it takes away a lot of judgment, right? So I was really careful when I was pregnant, not about I was careful about being sick, but not because I'm worried about getting sick. I've worked in clinic 8 years and had people coughing all winter long all over me and spluttering and all the rest of it. Like I don't worry about that. But when you've got a baby in your body, you have a zero immune system. Now I'm telling us this to set it up right from the beginning. So your body is already actually, when it's all of our bodies are naturally actually trying to kill the baby. Right? The whole reason because it's a foreign invader, and our immune systems are looking, and our stress systems are looking all day, every day for foreign invaders. And a common foreign invader that all of us could connect to is cancer, right? So a cancer cell is a foreign invader. The body is designed to attack it, get rid of it, and so that nothing happens. So equally, a baby, we might not like to know this, but a baby is actually a foreign invader. So our bodies are so clever, they shut down the whole immune system. Hence why I no longer wanted to get sick, because I was going to get really sick if I was sick, because I have 100% no immune system. Like somebody just needs to sniff on me at the moment and hello, I'm getting sick. Like that is the reality. And so why I'm telling you this is, when our bodies are stressed, even before we're pregnant, if your body's in a stressed state, it's working over time. Your immune system's flaring up over time anyway. So throw in a baby, or at the very beginning of a baby, and your body is now on high alert, and now has some stressful thoughts around, I don't think I'm going to keep the baby. What's the brain and the immune system going to work together to do? Kill the baby. Because you've basically told your body the foreign invader shouldn't be there. And I'm not saying it's your fault, anybody's fault. And I'm not even saying we consciously do this, because how would we know this? But when and it still doesn't mean, and I really don't want it to come across that it means you need to tell anybody that you're pregnant. But what I would encourage people to do and reflect on is, what is the language you're using in your own home, in your own body, in your own brain? Because it's one thing to say to yourself, I want the cocoon, I want the privacy, I am going to hold this baby, I'm going to have a nice, beautiful home, like internal home that's going to house this baby, and I'm going, like, my body's calm, my body's relaxed. Like, I like to picture, I'm a real visual person. So I pictured for myself, because I'm visual, really early on, what's a beautiful home or space that I like going into. And so then I was like, okay, that space that I love, I'm going to create that internally for my baby. At the time, I didn't know it was a baby boy, but I'm just like, I'm going to create that internal home, and visually I'd picture it for my baby. And so it was like that comfy, cozy for me. That's what I like, warmth, beautiful. I like lots of nature and plants. So that's, I know you literally don't grow plants. Well, you kind of do with your gut bacteria, but I don't have the green trees in my belly. But it was like, okay, so now what language would I want to hear in that home? Would I be talking about, I'm so scared that I might miscarry. I'm so scared that we're not going to have the baby. I'm so scared. I'm so fearful. I don't want to tell anyone because of the shame. And what if something happens? Would I be in a room? Do I like hanging out with friends in large situations that have got all the what ifs and creating anxiety in my body? I personally don't. Like, I'm like, turn up to that event and I leave within 10 minutes because I'm like, oh my gosh, like the anxiety in that area, like room, is just too high. Like, I can't settle my nervous system. And so it's like, right from the beginning, what sort of home are we choosing to set up? And that's not a good or a bad thing, because a lot of us have never been asked or put intention into this, because we don't get, it doesn't get talked about. So we don't talk about it. And then it's like, so what sort of home do we want for our little baby right at the beginning? And then how do we go about, which is basically what we're talking about, how do we go about creating that home and bringing down your body's stress response? Because it's designed, our bodies are designed to protect us, and they're designed to always look for invaders. Basically, the most common invader is cancer. So if it's on high alert and you've already got this invader, as I like to call it, parasite, in your body, you don't need to be fueling that with anything else. Like, your body is already on high alert. So
this is so interesting, Shelley, because I'm just thinking about it, and if it sounds to me like what you're actually saying is, because of our environment, because of our society, that is why perhaps so many miscarriages happen. It's actually not at all, of course it's not, and you would never say this anyway, the woman's fault that it's happened. But we've been conditioned to be in this environment that is not conducive for nurturing life and to supporting it, because we're so fearful. And that whole thing around the don't tell anyone until 3 months, which I intuitively felt, that's not quite right. And I was experiencing a similar fear to that as well. And so I'm just totally relating to what you're saying, but it's absolutely perpetuating what is happening with this environment. And so because we're keeping ourselves closed, because we keep our emotions to ourselves, which, in itself is incredibly damaging. Yeah, I'm following you. This is really great.
The other thing is, we're designed to be creatures, humans, in community, right? So it's actually really normal for us at any stage of careers, health, parenthood, like whatever, to have fears, right? Like, so it's actually also okay. Like, I'm not even saying you can't worry, but when you're in community outside of just your husband, because your husband's going to pick up on, or your partner's going to pick up on your worries, and so he's probably going to confirm them because he loves you and he wants to, whatever. But when you're in a community with other women and you share early on and you're like, oh, I felt this today, or maybe you got spotting. Like, I remember one day in my first 12 weeks, I did get like this little bit of blood, and I never get blood. And I just had that moment. I actually remember it very vividly. I was on a work trip to the States in the first 12 weeks. And I remember being in the States and like seeing this tiny little bit of blood. And I straight away was like, did I kill my baby by coming on this trip? And it was the tiniest piece of blood. And I was like, that is like a really ridiculous thought. Like, I caught myself, but I could see how it could turn into something. And I was like, okay, well, we can be proactive and we can be careful, and we can. So my plan was, this was like at 11 o'clock at night. I'd landed really late. And so I was like, if I see blood in the morning, I will obviously follow it up. Like, I'll find a local doctor. Like, so I talked myself through it. But equally, I reached out to one of my American doctor friends and I said to her, I straight away called her, because I told people. So I was able to get, because I was literally on the other side of the world, away from my husband. The first thing, like, I hadn't noticed anything else, but I had this little bit of blood. So I rang her and I was like, she's got 2 children herself. I said, should I be worried? Like, I'm not, like, I'm telling myself that it's fine, but there is a little bit of blood and I don't normally get blood. Should I be worried? And she kind of just chuckled at me and she was like, first time pregnancy, that's what you do, and she said the same thing. She confirmed my plan where I said, this is what I'm thinking and blah, blah, blah. And she was like, look, it just is you've probably had blood in the past and never even known it or cared. You're highlighting it now because you're pregnant and that's what mums do. Your maternal instincts are on overdrive. And that's the thing. The moment we conceive as women, we're a mum. Like, we've already gone into overdrive, and mums, you watch it with mammals, they protect the unborn. So we're already heightened. So if we don't have this community of people to talk to, and I know in my world, like, even with all the knowledge I know, and I could still calm myself down and think very logically and think it's really not enough blood for it to cause anything. But even when I told Jeff, my husband, and he was obviously super sweet, but I could see how anxiety could rise really fast, because he confirmed it where he was like, well, are you going to be okay? Do you need to go to a doctor? Like, he trusts me, but he was also, what, like, should he be worried? Like, I wasn't worried enough, so maybe he should create the worry. And it's beautiful and it's loving and caring. But if it's just the two of your heads working together, well, it can perpetuate into something really fast. And so when you don't have that community, and like, that was the only, I'm really lucky, that was the only experience that I had in those first 12 weeks. But it highlighted how lucky I was to have that community. Like, I had my own knowledge, but when it's your body, it's very different. And that's what I've always said to clients. Like, I'm like, it's one thing for me to tell you, but I'm going to empower you with your body, because when you're empowered with your body, you're the source of truth. And the reality was, deep down, when I got over seeing the blood and sat with my body and sat with it, I was like, I'm not actually fearful. Like, there's nothing in my body alerting me to call somebody. There was no cramping. Like, there was nothing else going on, right? And so when you can sit and be, but then also have that support around you, just to reach out to and check in with, because we do it with all other areas of our lives. We do it when the washing machine's broken. We do it when the car's broken. We do it when the boss has said something bitchy to us. We do it when the kids talked back to us and we've had a fight with a friend or our husband. Like, women are phenomenal at creating communities. We're phenomenal at reaching out to other people and asking for help and getting support and getting other people's opinions and learning. Yet probably for some of us, the most scariest time, because, like, if we get pregnant, a lot of us really want to be pregnant. So this is a really exciting time, but a really potentially stressful time, high anxious time. If you've wanted this for a really long time, there's maybe going to be more pressure if age is a factor. But yet we're doing this based on society for those first 12 weeks all alone or with our partners. But women don't do that in other areas of their lives at other stages in their lives.
Yeah, that's such a powerful point. And I think it's an amazing one, is that even if you're not announcing to the world or on your Facebook or whatever it is, have your community around you who are people that you know that when you talk to, they are a balancing word. So I want to move on a little bit to how you are still supporting me, because we're going through a process at the moment of helping me heal my liver and clear out parasites and probably stomach acids. There's some other things. So I'd love you to talk a little bit about how you're helping me and how this has been, how we're going to be shifting my system, and maybe some of the other things that you help women with around pregnancy as well.
So a key thing, which we've just wrapped this up nicely with both so that we all know what I was talking about, but one of the major areas is when you're pregnant and throughout pregnancy, and I would say we see it a lot when mothers have got newborn like toddlers and stuff, we talk about it more often, but it actually starts right from the beginning, is really looking at your nervous system. So what I've talked about in all these examples is, well, how stressed is your body? How high are your cortisol levels? And so what I mean by that is, like, often when I say, because it's hormones, right? We need hormones to get pregnant and to keep the pregnancy. Yet when I say to women, you know, name me some hormones, they'll say progesterone and they'll say estrogen. Some of them might say melatonin, maybe if they've taken it at some point in their lives. But while I'm working with very educated, empowered, smart women, they don't, if I'm talking about pregnancy or hormonal health, they won't talk about cortisol. Now, cortisol, for starters, is a hormone, but secondly, it's a major hormonal disruptor, right? So you only need this hormone called cortisol, which is your stress, like how much you're releasing into your body and how stressed your body is, to come along, and that single-handedly disrupts the rest of your sex hormones. Right. So when clients have low estrogen, which is a lot of my clients, they all like to come to me and tell me, Penny, that they've got high estrogen. And I'm like, okay, based on what? And it'll be some books that they've read or a blog or what they've heard. And I'm all for that. But I'm like, do we actually know you've got high estrogen? Because what I see clinically is most of my clients have low estrogen because they got very high cortisol. So cortisol disrupts estrogen. Estrogen is a key hormone for getting pregnant. Like, it's a key, our hormones are what get us pregnant and keep us pregnant in those initial from 0 to 20 week stage. So for a long time in our bodies. And so while I'm talking about these specific examples of us actually being pregnant, cortisol and regulating what is called the nervous system, but what that really means is your stress response or your rest, your calm response. That's a very easy way to look at it. So every time you pause and take a deep breath, which I haven't really on this call so far, let's be honest, because I like talking, I want to tell you as much as possible in a short amount of time. But every time you do a deep breath, you're engaging that calm response in your body. Yeah, Penny can mirror it for me. She can be the perfect example for you all. And so that's switching your nervous system. Now, I don't want you to hear this message and go, oh, I can only get pregnant if I'm perfectly calm all the time, because I'll put my hands up first and be like, I'm not. None of us are. And I definitely have not been perfectly calm. Life happens. And this is what I say to clients all the time. Life happens. But when you know what it feels like to feel calm, what your calm feels like, and that's going to, my calm's different to Penny's calm, which is going to be different to somebody, your calm listening, you can find your way back there. And we don't need you, nor do I need anybody. And remember, like, if I needed everyone to be calm all day long, I would not be helping anybody, because nobody is going to be. So it's when you can switch in and out of those states, that's regulating cortisol, which is helping to regulate your whole nervous system. And so when cortisol is more switched on, you're attacking, your immune system's all fired up and everything's all very stressed. And then it's going to be a lot harder with having good energy levels throughout the pregnancy. And so a lot of women come to me, or would come to me in the past, and say, I want to get pregnant. And I'm like, I can definitely get you pregnant, but I actually, and they didn't always want this, so that's why I specified it very early on, I don't want to just get you pregnant. I want to make sure you have the best health throughout your pregnancy, because those two goals are very different. One, to get pregnant, is very different to also feeling amazing throughout the pregnancy journey. And that gave women, like, this was before that even paid to see me, it gave women an opt-out to be like, no, I just want to get pregnant. And I'm like, that's fine. You're allowed to just get pregnant and then you do you on the pregnancy. And then there were other women, all the ones that I did work with, that were like, oh, interesting. What does that even mean? You mean I don't have to get tired during my pregnancy? I don't have to have morning sickness? I don't have to have swollen feet and feel puffy and disgusting? I don't have to all of these things. And I'm like, no, you don't. Like, when you're empowered. And so when you've got high cortisol going into pregnancy, and high achievers, myself and my banking days did as well, like, I'm no more different to anybody else, you've already drained your energy in your body. So you're already working subpar. So now you get pregnant, you start to grow another life, that, and I'm going to say parasite again, judge me for it. The parasite steals all your nutrients and all your minerals and all your energy. And just like literally from the moment that a client sees me, I might have seen them for years. I always say to them, once they're pregnant, I'm like, I'm not really worried about your health anymore. We're actually all here. Like, I'm telling you to do these things. But in my case, I'm doing all the things for Harvey. Like, I ain't getting anything. Like, I might be getting a little bit of a leftover of some sort of vitamins sometimes. But Harvey's taken it all. He's sucking it all dry, which as a mum, that's what we want, right? We want to have these healthy babies. Like, that's what we want. And so by looking after your adrenals and looking after your cortisol and your nervous system before pregnancy, while you're pregnant, during the pregnancy, you're already giving yourself better energy. You're already setting yourself up to not feel fatigued and not feel miserable where it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so exhausted. And also, don't get me wrong, I always say to clients, I want you to have a rest because you're choosing to look after your body and look after your nervous system, opposed to, and there's a big difference when we're aware of this, opposed to, I'm so exhausted, I need to go and sleep, like I am fatigued. And when you talk to a lot of your workmates or your friends, and they'll talk about their pregnancy journey as, I needed my Saturday and Sunday afternoon sleeps, I needed to take a break during the day, or I fell asleep at my desk. Opposed to me, where I'm like, I choose, and I'm very happy choosing during this time to go and rest. I could keep going, but I actually like my bed, and any excuse to have an afternoon nap, I'm all fine with, and read my book. So I'm choosing to do it. And if I can't for whatever reason, that's fine too. But it's much more a choice opposed to I need it. And if I got to the state of needing it, like, which is Penny, what you're saying, if it gets to the point of I'm needing it, well, I get to, if I choose to and want to, reassess what's happening in my life. What do I need to change so that I don't need to nap anymore? Do I need to take more supplements and support my body? Do I need to say no to things? Do I need to put in better boundaries? Do I need to change what I'm eating? Like, is my diet, and I've had to do this throughout these 9 months, keep changing, and I'm in the process of changing again my diet to feed myself differently, to nourish my body differently as he grows, because you are growing a small human that obviously as he gets bigger, he needs more. Sheesh. And so it's like, so all of those things are super empowering. And so the thing about health is, once you listen to your body and you sit with your body, unfortunately, like, I'd like to do this for everyone, make it a one-stop shop, but it's not, because our bodies change, as do our bodies during these 9 months. We need different things. We need to nourish ourselves with our foods and our thoughts and our nature and all these other things differently. So it goes from, and what I hear a lot of people talk about, especially around miscarriage, and once again, no judgment at all, but it goes from, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to help myself. I don't know the conversations to have. I don't know, and I feel very disempowered along this journey. To, I can sit with my body. I can see what I'm feeling. And then potentially I don't need to necessarily know all the answers. I don't even know all the answers, but I can find help, or I can do research, or I can read this, or I can do this because I'm empowered. And the thing is, our bodies love us. I always say to clients, we don't always love our bodies, but our bodies always love us. And so our bodies only ever want us to be in the best health. So when they're feeling tired, when you're feeling nauseous, when you're not wanting a certain food, it's your body looking after you and protecting you. And we as women get to go, well, what does my body need? What is it telling me? What do I need to do? And Penny, that's really been your discovery and your learnings. I'm now talking for you, but the information that you've relayed to me, where it's like, you did get that gift of and I'm sure it's fair, and you can say more, but on reflection, your body was talking to you too during your big initial pregnancy, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I was feeling, I didn't get too nauseous apart from when I was eating rich food like eggs. And I was like, you told me they were good for me because of the
Choline.
Choline, that's it. I was like, proline? No, choline for your brain health. And so I was like, okay, I've got to eat eggs. And I was just like, oh, it just made me feel ill eating eggs. And that was because my gallbladder was struggling, right? The gallbladder and liver, or I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah. So, well, it was so eggs are high in fat, which I'm not anti, obviously. So your gallbladder needs to digest the fat to eliminate the toxins in your body, but you also need stomach acid because eggs are high in protein too. And the funny part that I think of that you've picked with eggs, because Penny knows this, I don't like eggs. I've never really liked eggs. And my husband's never even known me to eat a single egg the whole time we've been together until I got pregnant. And now the only time I slightly get irritable is if there's no eggs in the fridge. I'm like, well, what have I mean to eat? Like I have religiously eaten eggs this whole pregnancy. And Penny's right. I believe, because I really don't like anything about eggs, it's got to be because what the choline is, it's not even for our brain health, it's for baby's brain health. It's the main nutrient that the baby needs to grow its brain. And so I'm like, it's got to be for, he's going to be one smart boy. And I'm going to tell him he's so smart because his mum ate all those eggs, suffered through them. But it's literally like my body's telling me, and like I, even on the days that I'm not hungry, somehow I eat these eggs. Like I have no idea how it even happens sometimes. And then so I'm really curious to see once I've given birth, and I don't need to give them choline anymore if I'm going to go back to being like, and there's nothing wrong with eggs. I don't mean it. It's just me, my personal, there's nothing nutritionally, like, just so we're clear. I'm not telling you that as a health expert. I'm telling you that as a Shelley, a human being. So I just to clear that, otherwise everyone will be like, I can't eat eggs. I can't eat eggs. What's wrong with eggs? But so I'm really curious to see if once I've given birth, if I still have this deeply connected relationship with these eggs.
We'll find out. This is going to be an interesting thing for sure. I think just to reiterate exactly what you were saying is that, and this goes for whether you're pregnant, wanting to get pregnant, or never want to get pregnant, that symptoms are symptoms. And I think this is something that you have really empowered me so much with, because I get it totally with emotions, but then it's like, of course, with the body as well. And I got it from my background in personal training too. I'm like, if you've got sore knees or a sore hip or a sore back, that's a symptom of something. You need to move differently. But then it's like, with our physical health, there are some things that, I don't know, it's like it creeps up so slowly. People blame it on aging. And like, this is the exact thing that I would say to my personal training clients. I'm like, no, it's not aging. This is you not taking care of your body. Because it happens so slowly, people kind of just accept it and don't realize that it's something that they can change. And so what I love so much about this conversation is that it's hopefully waking people up to realize that whether they're pregnant or never going to be pregnant, that they don't have to put up with these debilitating, painful symptoms that occur.
And Penny, you're so right. So, for example, as a practitioner, when you're not, regardless of pregnancy status, when you're trying to help somebody, because a client obviously comes in with their symptoms, which is great. It might be energy, or it might be hormonal, or brain fog, or headaches. And as a practitioner, you're like, okay, that's great. Like, how am I going to fix this? And you're only going to fix it. Like, it's all very well knowing the symptoms, but my job, and literally clients will watch me. And my staff have always said this to me because they're like, you're hilarious. Because as soon as you've got that moment, you're disinterested because right? Like my job in that initial appointment, when I say this is, I will ask and ask and ask until I get the moment where I'm like, that's what caused this symptom, right? So I'll have a client and they'll be like, I don't know, it just happened all those years ago. And then it'll be like, well, but what happened then? And then they'll say something, and clients always tell you the answers. They just don't know what they're saying. So my job is just to get as much information out as fast as possible. And so it might be a client that's like got bloating and their stools aren't perfect, well-formed sausages every single day. This links into you. And so they'll say something to me like, oh, now that I had this last week, where they were like, well, now that you say that, yeah. So actually 4 years ago, I went to Thailand and I got food poisoning. And yes, my poos have never been right since then. And I like, boom, there we go. You went to Thailand, you picked up a parasite. The parasite's never left your body. You inhaled it or swallowed it or whatever happened, and it's in your body. And so I'm like, now I know that because you're going to ask me how long is this going to take to fix? I'm like, well, we've got 4 years we're working with, opposed to 25 or 30 years with other clients or whatever the number is. I know what is causing your symptoms. So now I know how to help you fix it. But the thing for the person is, the client or the person, us listening, is that happened 4 years ago when you were on holiday. Well, the disruption that it's done in your body is 4 years worth of like the paint falling off the room, or, like when you think of your house, it's 4 years of the paint, like coming
Leaky
away.
roof or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or a leak. But we don't see that because for most people, it's not dramatic. Like they were literally sitting at their desk one day and the next day they were lying on the ground. Like most of us just aren't having that dramatic, which is lucky. Like, that I don't want that for people, but it's much more like you're saying, it's the grind. Like your health just gets ground down. So did mine in my banking days. Like it wasn't that I just was one day a successful banker and the next day I couldn't get out of bed. That might be what I thought it was in the moment. But when I reflected, I'd spent 3 years over drinking coffee and telling people I was tired and I was so young to be so tired. Like I'd use that language and I'd witness it, and I found ways to look like ways. And this is the thing about the human body. We're incredibly clever. We're incredibly creative. We're incredibly crafty. We look for ways to solve our problems. For me, in my banking days, it was coffee and sugar-free, gluten-free. No, they weren't sugar-free. They were gluten-free, high sugar treats to boost my energy all day long, which was feeding my gut bacteria, the negative gut bacteria. And so I found ways. So even though I feel like I collapsed overnight, it was 3 years in the making, and mine was dramatic. So I had to do something about it. But for most people that I work with, like I had a client yesterday be like, Shelley, I still remember at our first consult when you asked me how my energy was. Penny also might remember this too, but hers is slightly different. But I'm thinking of this other client, and this client was like, my energy's fine. What do you mean? Why are you asking me about my energy? I'm not here for energy. I'm here for you to fix. She doesn't have a gallbladder. I'm here for you to fix the fact that I don't have a gallbladder. Like, what's my energy? And she just cracks up because she's like, now you've helped me. You've empowered me. I never want a bad day of no energy. Like now I know what energy is. And for her, it was literally the grind of life. And so we put it down to life. We're like, we're busy, we're women, we're helping, we're working, we're doing all these things. Or we get back from a holiday where we've picked up a parasite, we're back into work, we're back into the gym, we're back into training, all these great things. But then it just happens so subtly for most of us. It happens over years. It's not till a symptom gets disruptive enough, causes, in my case as well, so I'm no different to any other client, causes enough havoc in our bodies that we're willing to listen. And then once we come from that place, we never want to go back to that place again. So our bodies were always telling us. And so with this client where it was the parasite from 4 years ago, well, that's disrupting their gut bacteria, that's disrupting their gut, that's disrupting their liver health, that's disrupting their nervous system, right?
And the brain too, right? The brain fog.
Absolutely, all of that. And so we can sit here and go, oh, but I meditate, which a lot of my clients do, and I love that too, and I meditate too. But if your body's got a parasite in it, or whatever it is, your liver's not working, you're not flushing out the toxins properly, that's in your body 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, causing this cortisol hormone to go up and up and up, even though you might be doing all the right things. And all my clients are always doing the right things. And I'm like, but you wouldn't be in my office on Zoom if you were actually in good health. So the right things aren't actually right for you right now, or there's something else going on. And so that's the thing with our bodies, is outwardly we can think that we're not stressed, and so we can think that we've created this beautiful calm environment whether we're pregnant or not pregnant. But if we've got disruptors, the evidence now is, I love talking chemicals and I love talking toxins to help people detoxify. Like that was a whole part of my work that I love. Well, we know babies are being born with so many chemicals in their umbilicus cord now. So back to Penny's point around low energy, well, if you've been born with 300 chemicals that you shouldn't have in your body, that's depleting your energy from birth. So were you ever really in great health to know what fully, and I don't mean that rudely, and it's just something that I'd leave for people to think about. But it's like, if you don't know great health, how do you even know when you're not in great health? Because we're all about, in the world, we need polarity, where we need the, dark, like night and day and all of that to help us compare things. So it's like, if you're being born with that, So how do you even know when it's diminished? How do you actually know when your glow's diminished if you've never been in a full glow to begin with? And that's the gift I see for, and that's why I would ask that question very early on with new mums. Are we looking to just get pregnant, or are we looking to actually change a paradigm of health so that our baby is born with the best health possible, so they get that sunlight and that ray of light of this is amazing health for you and the baby, so that when anything happens, you've got such a strong comparison as a mum, and we're the mama bears that go in to fight for our babies. We're going to fight for that baby because we're like, hey, that's not normal. They used to have really great energy. And sure, maybe it's only a half an hour or whatever that they feel super tired or their brain's just not whatever. And you're going to be like, that's not okay for my 2-year-old. Like I've got clients now where they're like, no, that's not okay. And they'll say to their doctor, but my baby is so healthy. No, I'm not accepting that. Like, I'm not accepting you telling me that because I know my baby is so healthy. So for them to be out of balance now, there is something wrong and we're going to get to the bottom, right? But that's because this baby is born so healthy. So like, I've got a classic example actually where a mum came to see me with her baby at 9 months and the baby suddenly had colic. Well, the baby hadn't had colic for 9 months. And so the mum went to the doctor and the doctor said it's normal, that's what happens, or whatever the doctor said. I can't quote the exact words. So then she rang me and she was like, I know it's not normal. So what am I doing? Like what? And not, she wasn't blaming herself, but she said, I'm still, and I said to her, well, are you breastfeeding? Like, and the baby was predominantly, maybe it was a bit younger than 9 months, but the baby was predominantly only having breast milk. And so I said, yes, well, it is you because it's what you're doing. It turns out she started eating a whole bunch of like cabbage and broccoli, all these good things. But cabbage and broccoli and cauliflower and Brussels sprouts, because it must have been winter, that you need a lot of stomach acid to digest those foods.
Right.
So the mum wasn't having, because she was also, I started asking questions, she was like, oh, well, actually I am getting a little bit of bloating and I haven't had bloating in years since working with you. And I was like, because you're not digesting it. So that's impacting your little baby. And so, but she knew what such good health was for her little baby. She might have been forgetting to reflect on it in herself with the bloating, but she wasn't willing to put up with it for her child because her paradigm of what health is and so back to that question, Penny, it's kind of like, well, that child, that boy is going to know such good health that the day something happens, maybe he's in some third world country too. I'm not just picking on third world countries, but that's an easy way to pick up a parasite for a lot of New Zealanders. But he'll notice what bloating is, or he'll notice what diminished energy is or brain fog, and he'll question it. And it's like, I had one day of brain fog and it was a few years ago and I was away with a friend and you'd think that I was dying of brain cancer. Like literally, I was like, I need to talk to a specialist. And my friend was like, couldn't you just calm down? And I wasn't stressed or anxious, but I was literally like, this is not my normal. I am not putting up with this. Like if this lasts more than 3 days, I'm on that phone and I'm going to get the top specialist because there's something like that's how. And she was like, everyone else would just put it off to being a little bit tired. Like, can't you be a little bit more normal? Like she loves me and we're good friends still now. And I was like, no, I will not. Like, I am basically going to be dead of brain cancer, if this is hanging around like that. And so we laugh, but it's like, that's not my normal. So why would I put up with it? It means there's something wrong. And I'm not going to wait 2 years until I've got brain cancer because I didn't do anything about the fog to begin with. I was right there being my biggest advocate and fighting for it because I was like, it's not normal. I'm not putting up with it and something's caused it. Now I've got to work out what it is, but I'm going to work it out. And if it is brain cancer, well, we're going to get onto that really fast too. But when you're coming from that place, and like your journey would be so different going forward, Penny, because when you're coming from that place, you don't accept anything along the way. And it doesn't mean that we judge anything, but it does mean that we get the opportunity to sit with our bodies, question and challenge what's happening, and have tools to reflect and be like, is this where I want to be? And is this what I want? And is this the body and the environment that I want to be creating for myself and for potentially getting pregnant or being pregnant? Like, what do I want and what do I need and what is out of balance so that I can look after it before something happens. And I know that I've just talked at you, but I will just share this as well. My thyroid is my weakest organ. My health story begins from was my thyroid. And your thyroid not working properly, like optimally, in those first 20 weeks will 100% cause a miscarriage. So I had looked after my thyroid for 8 years before getting pregnant, and it had been fine. But I knew that I was a huge miscarriage risk because of my past history with my thyroid. And it doesn't mean I need to blame myself or judge myself. Sure, I created the thyroid condition. Absolutely, I did back in those days before I knew anything. But I wasn't going to take the judgment. I was just going to be like, okay, this is a potential area of weakness. I know that that organ is responsible for creating miscarriages when it's not looked after. So how am I going to be proactive with this? How am I going to look after my body and look after my unborn child so that I can protect him? I still might not get it right. I still run a huge risk because this is a big deal. And I could still miss a blood test, or I could still, there was plenty of things that could have gone wrong. And I'm human, so I could have, whatever. But I was like, but I'm going to set myself up and try and do what I can to keep this pregnancy, So for me, I'm really bad because I look after so many other people's blood tests. I literally had to put calendar, and I'm not like this at all. I had to put calendar reminders in my computer to be like, okay, go and test your thyroid, do those blood tests, and then change it. And so it's like that empoweredness. And I was actually, during the first 20 weeks, 1 week, I was late with testing my thyroid. It's about 3 days late. And I remember the day before going to get my blood test done, and I was like, I am so tired. Like my body was heavy. And once again, I could have listened, and plenty of people would have told me that that's just normal with being pregnant. And I was like, but it's not. I've left my thyroid too late with my blood test. I didn't think I'd killed Harvey, obviously. But I was like, I've left it too late. Like those 3 days were obviously critical for my body, not somebody else's, but mine, because I was already feeling the tired symptoms. I was already feeling like I was walking through like concrete. And so sure enough, when I got my blood work back, I just needed to change my thyroid supplements. And I had started to go into being underactive, which was my pattern with my health. And so obviously my body was working harder. And because I hadn't looked after myself, I didn't need to judge myself. Like, it was annoying and it was inconvenient, very inconvenient, because with natural health, there's a bit of a delay between cause and fixing. So I got to suffer through a week of being more fatigued than I potentially needed to be. And I say suffer because I really did feel like I was suffering, because I was like, I did kind of create this. Like, I didn't look after myself in the moment. I don't need to beat myself up about it. There's consequences to it. My body's letting me know it can fix itself and I'll be fine afterwards. But there is a healing delay process that now I get to go through. I'm not immune like anyone else. And it wasn't critical, obviously. Obviously, the baby's fine. But I got to experience those symptoms, and I didn't like those symptoms. And my life was harder during that week, energy-wise, while my body corrected itself. And so it's a gift, because at the end of the day, being tired for a week is not that much to suffer through compared to like losing Harvey. If I wasn't listening to my body, and how rapidly my thyroid had declined at that point in the pregnancy, and I think I was at 14 or 15 weeks, it had declined so fast that I was on a trajectory for it to totally bottom out, totally not work at all, that it potentially, I don't know, because I'm obviously still pregnant, but it wouldn't have been leading anywhere good. And it was still in that critical time, opposed to just the 12 weeks that we've been trained to think is critical. It definitely was in the critical time for thyroid health and hormonal health, where potentially you can lose the baby still. I could have still lost the baby with my health. And so I'd take the week of tiredness and my body telling me, like it had told me. And even if the calendar hadn't worked, technology hadn't worked with the reminder to go get my blood test, that feeling of tiredness in my body, I straight away, the moment I woke up that day feeling it, I was like, my thyroid's kicked in, like it's not happy, and so I was highly motivated that day, calendar invite or not, to go get my blood work done. So that's the power and the gift and really what you're empowering people and the journey that I think you've really been on too, Penny.
Yeah, and it really makes me think, because symptoms, and I know you talked about an experience of going to see a nurse or a doctor or something, and you saying you had no symptoms, and
Oh
then
yeah.
being completely surprised by that. And the fact that the vast majority, if not all, almost, women seem to have symptoms ranging from mild to severe, and then you're monitoring your body so closely with a little bit of tiredness leading into what could have been severe tiredness, which could have meant that you actually lost a baby. It makes me just think, where is that impact going? And it must be going to the baby's health. And yet we are having so many children born nowadays with allergies and with skin conditions and with things like that. Is that what's happening?
Well, and you're right, Penny. Like, once again, I got into this too late in life to know, but I'll answer your question. So the first thing, and actually a client that we're talking about in common, the first thing you say as a practitioner with thyroid health is you always go, did your mum have it? So I'll talk about thyroid just in particular, but your question with all of it's the same. And so I do know, while I can't prove that I was born with an underactive thyroid, from my mum. My mum has did have an underactive thyroid before she's like I got unwell and then we fixed her health. And my nana, her mum had an underactive thyroid too. And I literally used to be teased at school because I had half eyebrows, which is an underactive, and I've got photos. So while I can't medically test and say I was born with an underactive thyroid, I truly can't. But I do have evidence where like kids would pick on me and I would get called half eyebrow girl from a very young age. And it was true. I did have these half eyebrows. And you might not think I have the bushiest eyebrows these days, but I do promise you that they're a heck of a lot bushier and I'm very happy with my full grown eyebrows. And so you're 100% correct where we do pass it on, and once again, I could judge my mum and I could make her feel bad, but I don't, because she didn't know. She had the tools that she had and was doing the best that she could when she was pregnant. So it's not about any of this judgment. And the other thing is, and there's actually a cat study, Dr. Pottinger, I can't think of what his first name is. It's 3 generations to change health. Even the difference between my health and my mum's health were a whole generation apart. So her underactive thyroid may never have been as severe as mine after 2 generations of women with an underactive thyroid. And for me, and I know I've told you this in the past, Penny, one of the things for me and one of the main motivators when I was single for years, and people would say to me, but you want to get pregnant, aren't you worried? And I was like, hells no, I'm going to get all my health perfect. And not perfect, sorry, I shouldn't say perfect, but I really want to get my health optimal. I'm doing that before. I don't need the partner. Like, even if I've got the guy, that's great because of the relationship and the whole bunch of other stuff that comes with it. But I'm like, I've got some time to put in on my own health first. That whether he's there or not is kind of irrelevant, because it's not like going to be like, hey, I've met you and now I'm going to get pregnant straight away. It was more like, okay, now I've met you, but I've still got a couple more years to like fix a few of my health things, right? Like, so I was like, no, I'm still living for my dream of being pregnant without the partner. That's no problem at all, because like I've got to sort these things out. Because I was very aware, and one of my main motivators, and now at this part of my pregnancy where I'm not going to lose the baby through my thyroid health, but I'm very aware that my thyroid health throughout the whole pregnancy is what I'm giving to my baby. And I learned that very early on in my career at actually a mainstream medical conference where the doctors were talking about how in New Zealand, we've got some of the highest numbers of babies being born with underactive thyroids. And that's the gift that the mum gives them. And so that's why, for me, it was really important to work with women and empower people that didn't just want to get pregnant, but they wanted to look after their health throughout the whole journey as well. Because like you say, Penny, otherwise we're giving birth. Some of us don't know, and that's not a judgment thing. If you don't know, you don't know. And that's what I always say to my clients. I'm like, but you didn't know. Don't worry about it. We just fix it now. And if you're listening with a 2-year-old or a 5-year-old and you're worried, well, we can test all of these things. But equally, there's no judgment, because the littler they are, the quicker to fix. Like, I have some clients that I've worked with the parents, and I might have worked with them for 3 or 4 years. And then they look at me and they're like, is it going to take 3 or 4 years for my little baby too? Like the little 2 or 3-year-old. And I'm like, no, it's going to take 2 or 3 weeks. It's so quick to fix. And the impact you have is so huge, because you can turn it around so fast because they don't have all those years on it. But more importantly, like you were saying, how healthy we are is the gift that we give. But also selfishly, I do think to myself now, being pregnant, like I've preached that to clients forever, that, so it's so beautiful of you to give your child such great health, and you're such a nice person. But selfishly, I think to myself now, being pregnant, I'm like, why the heck wouldn't I want to set my baby up with great health? It's only making my life as mum easier, right? Like if my baby doesn't...
Cheaper.
Exactly. And so I think to myself at the moment, like I'm like, ex-accountant, return on investment, I'm like, all the amazing food that I'm nourishing myself with currently, like that's 2 people we're nourishing right about now. And if I set my baby up to have amazing health, which I watch all my clients over the years, their babies have such amazing health and they don't get sick and they don't get all these things. Well, cha-ching, we're only saving money. Like I'm like, this return on investment's really good right about now. But you're also setting your baby up. And if your baby's more rested or doesn't pick up bugs all the time and doesn't have a thyroid issue and doesn't have all these issues, well, as mum, that's great. I'm signing up for that, baby, because my life's going to be so much easier. And personality plays a part, and my parents think, it would only be right if like I had to suffer a little bit like they had to. But, just saying, very strong will from a very young age. I don't have any carrots to fix that problem. But Penny, like there's nothing, but you're right? So it's like, that's the gift.
It totally is. And I think this is a really good time to ask you, because not everyone is going to be able to necessarily afford to spend a lot of money and time, maybe seeing someone like you or diving deep into the supplements, because it can be really expensive.
Oh, 100%.
So what recommendations would you have for someone listening to this who's aware that their energy is not so good? Maybe they've got a few symptoms with digestion or whatever. How do they optimize their health now so that they can put themselves in the best position to get pregnant and to have a healthy pregnancy, and also just for life in general? What would you recommend? I know that's a big question.
No, but your nervous system's free to fix. It annoys people. For my clients, they want the quick fix, so they're willing to throw pills at it and supplements and all of that because that's easier for them. But if we can bring down cortisol and we can regulate, because when your body, remember how I said that it's the calm, it's the rest, the calm state. When we're in that calm state, what I didn't say at that point was it's also your digestive state and it's your detoxification state. So going from being this wound up bunny, which I was, and which society really prizes, and like I was always busy and prided myself for how busy and how much I achieved, I was just pumping out cortisol and disrupting everything in my body. So the one thing that I needed the most in my banking days, and I literally remember one of my darling friends in Australia, still a friend, she was like, you just need yoga. I was like, I'm going to punch you in the face. Like, hello, I don't just need yoga. Like, whatever, and eventually the darling friend, after 9 months of telling me I just needed yoga, I went. And 10 minutes, no, Penny, you look very optimistic. I wish I could turn back the clock. But anyway, she didn't tell me it was a 90-minute class. And within 5 minutes into the class, I don't know, the instructor must have said, you're here for a 90-minute class. And I was like, I don't have time for 90 minutes. I factored in 50 minutes or 60 minutes. So I rolled up my mat and I just left. And I never went back. And we can laugh. And I know that you're asking for free things, but that was just the sign that the fact, like now I look back and it was a Sunday night, right? Like who has things to do on a Sunday night anyway? Like, but I did. Like that 90 minutes, there's extra 30 minutes. I was like, that's going to throw out my whole schedule. And now this is not going to happen and blah, blah, blah. Like that was how tightly wound up I was. Yeah. And so I just laugh at the old me, and clients will often be like, you talk about yourself like there's an old you and a new you, and I'm like, oh, there is. Like the old one was like so foreign anyway. But that in itself, and so we know that our nervous systems are dysregulated when those types of things happen, and we feel like we just don't have that time. And there's plenty of people that talk about not having time, and something happening, that car got in the way and now they're 5 minutes late and their life is over. And it really doesn't matter that we're 5 minutes late if we don't have a whole other like billion things stacked in to get done in the same day and all of this. And so it's all of like, the biggest thing is when you can regulate your nervous system, and regulate will be different. Like, I didn't, like, while my friend was offering me the 90-minute yoga class, what I can now say is 2 minutes of breathing for me at that point in time would have been amazing, because like that wasn't happening full stop, right? Like, we can also go to our different limits, and 90 minutes was probably a bit too much of a stretch anyway. Even new me can look and say that that was probably quite a lot. 2 minutes of belly breathing probably would have achieved quite a good start. So regulating your nervous system is then regulating your hormones, right? Because sure, say I'll pick the low estrogen example, cortisol impacts low estrogen, so does your gut bacteria, but those are the two main reasons for it. So if you can fix your cortisol being high, which is through things like breathing or legs up the wall or Epsom salt baths or sitting outside in the sunshine or breathing or gratitude, talking to your partner, laughing, humming, all of these things that I think are free. The Epsom salts cost you a few dollars, but the rest of it's all free stuff that we just get to be intentional with and make sure. And the other thing, Penny, is, and I'm just laughing because clients say this to me all the time, they do it once and then they're done and it didn't work. I'm like, oh, when it comes to regulating your nervous system, especially if you're a type A personality and a high achiever like I was, well, let's at least start with daily, and then you're probably going to need to do it hourly, let's be honest, but we'll just do it once a day to begin with. So that is, but if you can regulate the cortisol, well, already you're going to start to digest your food better. Your liver is going to be able to detoxify in the evenings because you're in that rest and digest and detoxify state. You're going to sleep better. And cortisol disrupts melatonin, which is, I also never slept for all those years. And so now you're going to, when you bring that down through breathing, and I'm not just saying it's breathing, it's any one of those other activities, you might like any of those better, then you re-regulate that. So now you sleep better. Now you detoxify your brain while you're asleep at night. Now you wake up hungry. Your thyroid's got a chance. So this plays a role in all the different areas of your health. And
this is awesome. Can I just clarify something before you carry on? Because partly for me, so I'm also like, oh, that's a good one. But and it's so funny because then I look back to the work that I do, I'm like, of course, idiot. But anyway, for myself, not for you guys listening. But when we try something like legs up the wall, which is when you lie on your back and you put your legs up the wall, and if your hamstrings are tight, you can be away from the wall a little bit. But and if you do that once and then you notice that that hasn't calmed you down, it's like, let your body adjust to it a bit, do it daily for a while. And then your body goes, oh, actually, you are letting me relax. Okay, cool. Now I'm going to respond. Same with breathing, spending a few times doing the square breathing, or you can look that up online, or the longer out breath, or whatever it is. You do that once, it hasn't worked. And it's like, give your body a chance to adapt.
Oh, Penny, it's like, this, and you've witnessed many other clients say this to me. When I get people to do the stress urine strips and everyone's like, you've sold me a faulty product and that product doesn't work and it's never going to work. I'm like, the product's good. You just haven't changed you yet. If you know what I mean, like you haven't learned the tools, and it's a visual, hence why I use it with clients, because I know all of my clients are wound up because I was like attracts like. And so I'm like, I need to give you a visual tool, and so it is very much like they need the reminder, they need the check-in, and I'm like, so how long has that been going on for? And the other thing is, like me, so there's no judgment here, was the more years, not that's bad English, but the longer time you've been pumping out cortisol, and for me, I've been doing it for a very long time, not to mention that I actually had a whole bunch of medical dysregulation of like the thyroid not work, like actual organs and systems not working in my body, also causing internal stress. So like doing 1 minute of breathing once that wasn't going to heal all my body, like, and so I could sit there and get annoyed, or be like, okay, well, I've been in this pattern probably by the time I actually did that for like 29, 30 years. Like literally when people ask me, like my whole life, my mom was very advanced in my childhood, where she got me doing meditation, all these things, but I never actually slept. Like from a very young age, I never slept. Like I was a horror baby. That's why my parents sometimes are like, I didn't sleep more than 2 or 3 hours a night, maybe 4. I was very good at entertaining myself in my bedroom. So my parents had taught me good boundaries. So it didn't really impact their lives all that much. And I'd learned tools in my banking days of how to get myself so exhausted I'd collapse into bed. But I had only slept most of my life for about 4 hours maximum, maybe 5. And so when I was retraining myself to sleep, once I'd gotten better, because I'd obviously spent all those years in bed where I was asleep nonstop, but I wasn't really asleep. I was just like basically dead. So once I got energy again, I had to retrain myself. And so I'll talk to clients and they're like, you did what? And I would literally, because it's through neuroplasticity, our brains being plastic, so we can change them into anything we want at any stage of our lives, which is so empowering. But literally, I now fall asleep, and I will fall asleep on planes. Like when I was traveling all the time to the States, I got to know all the air hostesses really well. And they'd be like, you fall asleep before dinner's served and you don't wake up again till breakfast. Like, how do you do it? And it wouldn't even matter. I'd created the neuroplasticity. It wouldn't even matter that I wasn't tired. When I got on the plane, I was like, I'm on the plane. Oh my gosh, I'm so tired. That's what you do. But for me to retrain my body to sleep after 30 odd years of not sleeping, I probably slept a little bit when I was a baby. Well, I hope so. But I would literally do my 4 hours. I'd wake up. I'd do all my nervous system techniques, leg us up the bed. I wasn't getting out of bed at that time. It was cold. I'd apply my nervous system oil. I'd do my deep breathing. I'd do whatever. I'd get back to sleep, and I'd probably only sleep for 30 minutes. Like I do this whole routine. Maybe sometimes I'd take an hour to sleep for 30 minutes. Then I'd be back up doing that routine, legs up the wall. Like I would religiously basically do it. And I just bit by bit, like that 4 hours turned into 5 hours, which then turned into 6 hours, which then turned into 6.5 hours. But this was over like a 10-month period, maybe 11 months. And, the first few nights I was like, this isn't working. Like, this is just a whole heap of effort. And I'm getting cold in Wellington because it's always cold. I'm getting out of bed. I'm doing all these things and I'm not sleeping. Like, should I just quit? And I was like, well, I've got 30 years of this problem. It's not going to fix in 4 nights because now I've decided to do something proactively about it. Right. And so I was like, I'm going to choose to keep doing it until I notice a difference. And for me, that first difference was literally 20 extra minutes of sleep, which I was putting in way more effort than the 20 minutes I was getting. But I knew I was developing the new neuroplasticity, the new muscle that I was now teaching myself to sleep. And so it would only get better and stronger. Like now I can't even imagine most of the time. Oh, it's so rare that I don't sleep. I'm like, oh, that's so weird. It's such a weird, and so I've retrained my body. And so that's like this with what you're saying, Penny, where if we used to, and society likes to keep us in a place of busyness. So if we're used to coming from a place of busyness, which was me, like I loved it. I excelled at life, you got the promotion. Society rewarded me for being so busy for the rewards that I wanted. Like I was very driven in terms of the career that I wanted. So it rewarded me how I wanted to be rewarded. And so if that's so ingrained in you, and it wasn't me, just breathing for a minute the first time, you're not going to feel like your life's changed. But you're building the muscles, and in your personal training days, this, you're building the muscles to get stronger weights, or you're building the muscles to flick your nervous system, which is then regulating. Like, to be honest, Penny, I look back and I'm like, I really wish, and this is not me, it's still not me, that I could have fixed all my problems. Some people can fix all their health problems with just regulating their nervous system. I'm never going to be that much of a star of regulating my nervous system. Like I need all the tools. I need all the supplements. I need to throw all the things at it. Like that's just, I always say to clients, you're still allowed to do you, and I'm still like, I might know all the things about health, but I still can do me. And I'm not going to spend an hour or 5 hours a day regulating my nervous system, right? But the honest truth is, honestly, with all the research and all the stuff that I do know, is you can basically fix everything by fixing your nervous system. That's just a level of commitment I'm never giving to my health. And to be honest, though, you can't quite kill off parasites. You can't kill off the parasites, but a lot of things you can fix. But it comes down to, and there's no right or wrong here, but so money doesn't actually have to be a barrier. Equally, fix your nervous system and still eat chemicals. Well, you're creating different problems, if you know what I mean. So I'm not going to say we can outbreathe all the toxins and everything on our food, but you can soak your vegetables in apple cider vinegar, which is relatively cheap. So, you still have to put in mindful actions, but health doesn't have to be like, money doesn't have to be prohibitive to getting you back your health. And the more effort, which mine was minimal, that you put in doing all these things, when you do work with a practitioner, if you do, or you read on the internet about parasites and you want to go on a parasite protocol and you do have to pay for the herbs, well, if that's just the only thing you're paying for, that's also a difference in costs and price and all the rest. But equally, I do say this to clients all the time, depending on where you're at with your health journey, your age, what your goals are in terms of, some of my clients want to be pregnant yesterday. Well, that's probably going to require more money, more things, because they're probably not going to be able to sit there very zen, because equally as they're sitting there very zen, they're worried about that they're not pregnant yet. So there's that balance as well. And I truly believe there's no right or wrong. Like, I'll put my hands up 100% and tell you I don't breathe all day. Look at me now. I've been excited this whole call. So I will have to get off of doing my breathing exercises because I've dysregulated my nervous system. And so I've got a hugely excitable personality, which is a blessing and not so great from a nervous system point of view. So I'm forever going to be throwing adrenal stuff. Oh, come on and off adrenal supplements, but I've come to such a good place of health. I could actually never need to go on the adrenal supplements if I did make other choices, and so when we're empowered with our health, I'm never going to not have good energy because I'm going to recognize that symptom and I don't like it in my body. And every time I see the crossroads in my body, I go, well, how much am I going to throw at effort? And how much do I want to throw at it in money? And then I work out what the balance is, and then we go from there. So it's a nice choice that we do get to have, but it doesn't have to be. I've been really lucky that over the years I've worked with really low decile schools. I've worked in community projects, getting these people's health pretty good. Like, we didn't get rid of parasites with those things, but like, we got their standards of health and their blood work and all these things really phenomenal. And they didn't take supplements. They didn't throw money at it beyond the community pool of the food that they were growing and the things that they were doing. So there is a lot that you can do doesn't necessarily have to be a lot of money.
And so if people are listening to this and they're like, you've mentioned parasites a lot, it's almost like you're thinking everybody's got parasites, probably, because you said you used to do, obviously you're not doing it while you're pregnant. I don't think you are anyway. But you used to do.
I've got a major parasite.
You've got a major parasite. You can't get rid of that one until 6 weeks time or 9 weeks time or something. So you used to do parasite cleansers twice a year. And so if you're doing them twice a year, I'm thinking that we've all got parasites and we probably need to be doing something. Is there some kind of basic, you're not going to kill yourself protocol that people can do for getting rid of them?
A couple of things, Penny, and it's a good point. The reason why I do parasite cleansers twice a year, even though I think I take good care of my health, I've got a dog. Like, a baby's a parasite, dogs are parasites, and I know that we've gone well over time, but I'll just tell you this really quickly. One of my clients was very proud of me because I said, you've got a dog. Where does the dog sleep? She was like, on my bed at night. And this dog had been doing that for maybe like 10 years. I don't know, it was a long time. Anyway, and so she one time turned up to a appointment Zoom, super excited because she was like, my dog doesn't sleep on my bed at night anymore. Like, I'm not going to have to keep doing these parasite cleanses, and once you've gotten rid of them, a maintenance program is kind of for a few days or a week, yeah. So it's not a big deal. You just take some herbs. Anyway, I said to her, I was celebrating for her for a few minutes. And then and the work that she was putting into getting this dog not to sleep on the bed at night, 10 years of a habit. And her sleep was now quite disrupted. So we now had other problems. And in my head, I was like, oh gosh, she's missed the point here. But I love her commitment. Like, I was so proud of her and I wanted to be excited. I said to her, so like, when you go to work during the day, where's that dog going? Because in my head, I'm like, it's not staying in its basket. It's going straight back to your bed. I was like, where do you find the dog? And she's like, on my bed when you come home. And I was like, so those 9 hours during the day or 8 hours or whatever it is when you're not there, where are the parasites going then? I was like, just let the dog stay on the bed in the evening. Like, it's a fight that you're already losing. But she got the message where she was like, oh, I get it. Like, it's very hard. And it's very hard. And the other thing I think of is, once again, having a dog. Well, I pick up the dog poo, and most of us do these days. But at the end of the day, the dog still pees in the park on the grass. The dog does poo on the park, even though I pick it up, there'll be remnants there. How many people, and I'm all for this, but how many people I'm going to let Harvey, my baby, put his little feet through the grass where the dogs have peed and pooed and all the rest, and the cats have done it all. So whether you see it or not, whether you even got an animal, and I truly do not believe that we live in these bubbles. Like, that is not my message at all. So to live in the world today, we're probably going to get exposed multiple times. Go to a third world country, go on a bushwalk in New Zealand, and the amount of clients that pick it up from the stream water, they pick it up from the tap water or whatever water. Like, so that's another source of getting it. And then your kids bring them home, and then you share it amongst family members. And so there's so many ways, hence why for me, I'm a very like black and white person and really quite structured. So I'm like, I'm just going to do it religiously. Like, it just suits my personality. It doesn't suit everyone's personality. I'm like, what do I need to wait for a symptom for? I'm getting these parasites regardless. Like, my life is like just one big parasite. And so but with that in mind, what a lot of people will say to me, and a lot of doctors, maybe a decade ago especially, and they don't really talk about it now, functional doctors, not mainstream medical doctors, but they used to enforce like these like really strict diets. And I can tell you, for 8 years, even when it was still being preached that clients had to go on strict diets, I never put my clients on these strict diets, because I was like, compliance is going to be negative. They're never going to reach these levels of how strict these stupid diets were. And I didn't really believe back then that they were even going to help that much, so even intuitively back then, hence why like I was like, I'm going to have no success ever. Like, nobody's signing up for this level of extremeness, myself included. And so I was like, okay, well, what do we actually need? And now the research and science has proven this anyway. But no, like, and this is why I thought it was funny, well, not funny, haha, I felt sorry for people. But you'd go on these super strict diets, so you'd stop feeding the parasites, but there was never anything in these diets that actually killed off the parasites, right? So you could stop eating the sugar, or you could stop eating, like, people were like not allowed to eat bananas and carrots. And like, I'm not saying eat a whole bunch of these sugary carbs, but like the level of extremeness. And I was always like, because of my background in accounting, which is, you question everything. I was like, I'm really curious, because I understand food is feeding something that's in there. So if you remove the foods that are feeding the thing, well, does it just disappear because you're not feeding it? Like, does it just have a time that it dies? But I was like, logically, that doesn't even make sense, because I've seen people with parasites for 20 years. So I'm like, and they must have gotten sick at some point and not eaten for 24 hours. So this thing should be dead, if that's the logic behind it. And I was like, logically, that makes no sense. But anyway, research is now caught up. And so you do sure, if it makes, and I always say this to clients, some love to restrict their diet. So I'm like, if that makes you feel happy, by all means do it while you're on the parasite. Like, if you want to feel like awful, sure, do that step too. But the reality is, you just have to take herbs to kill the parasites. Like, you have to do something to kill them. in my world, being in the natural health world, we give herbs. In the mainstream medical world, they'll give drugs, and so, but there is something that has to happen to actually kill them. And then you get rid of them. And like to this day, and it really makes me laugh that clients even ask this. They'll always say to me, am I the sickest person you've ever helped? And I'm like, And the reason I go like that is it's so funny because to this day, when I run the stool test, I've never actually had anyone as bad as my one when I was getting my health better. I don't sit there and tell them, oh no, like I was way sicker than you.
I'm the worst.
Yeah, right. But like mine was so bad that the lab rang me and they were like, who is this person? Like they still use me as an example of how sick somebody can be from parasites, right? And so they've taken my name off it. But like I am the living example in New Zealand in a lot of the trainings because they're like, how did this person even survive? Hence why when these clients ask me, I'm like, no, yeah, you're pretty sick, thinking you've got it easy. You don't even know the meaning. But like, so obviously the protocol that I had to go on back then was intense, opposed to what I joke with Penny now. And I'm like, I just throw back a few pills for a week. And literally it is something like I probably take about, when I'm on a parasite cleanse now, I would only take like 6 extra herbs a day for a week and then I'm done. Right. Like, so that's what I mean in terms of, and this is the confusing part for people is that when you're getting health back again, just like with my nervous system, you have to put in a lot of work. You do have to put in a lot of work, whether that's money, effort with your food, with what you're putting on your body, all of those things. There's a lot of components to it. And so that was what breaks my heart the most is, so the entry level or entry point to get into good health is stacked against you because you have to put in so much effort. But to maintain good health is so easy, and like I laugh and Penny knows this because I share it all the time, but for me to fix my stomach acid, I needed 50 pills per meal of stomach acid, right? And then for 7 years, I felt like the biggest hypocrite because I was telling clients every hour, all day long, to take these stomach acid pills that I was no longer taking. So I was giving out advice that I was no longer applying because I'd actually fixed my body, hence why I didn't need to do it. But there were days where I was like, I do feel a little hypocritical. Like I know I fixed this problem, so I'm living proof, but I'm like telling people to do it. And now I'm back to having to take them. But my effort I've had because of being pregnant, you do lose your stomach acid. But I watch some clients in pregnancy have to take like ridiculous numbers of stomach acid pills and still not actually make any progress. We're just trying to like stop the child from having all these deficiencies. Rather for me, like literally I take 2. If I take 2 or 3, I get the warming sensation that I teach clients about. But so even for me during pregnancy, and I'm not saying that I'm perfect, I'm not at all, but it's just the level of ease is much easier. But yet, I look back and I'm like, I chuckle every time I tell myself it's easy. And I'm like, yeah, that's because you put in 10 years worth of work, like to set your body up. And I'm not saying people have to spend 10 years. That's not my message either. I'm all about just take more pills during you're pregnant. That's fine too. Like pick your battles. It really doesn't matter. And I'm not bothered. But there's that. And I also knew that I had like my thyroid that was stacked against me going into pregnancy. So I had other issues that were going to be stacked against me. Hence why I wanted to be in better health than but so that's the thing where with the parasites or whatever the issue is, once you've fixed it, it's never that hard to maintain and it's actually really easy. It becomes easy. And even like, I've got this people at the moment, a few weeks ago, we did the 21-day challenge and I had like a liver detox challenge that I run with clients. And I had a lot of people that had never worked with me and this was all new to them. And all the feedback, even because we check in with them. And so maybe now it's been 3 weeks later since it completed. And people are all like, oh, I've just maintained that. Like, it's just so easy, and that's been the feedback where it's like, well, obviously a few things have crept in, but now I know the protein to eat and the veggies to eat and how to eat. It just seems so easy to keep it up. I don't miss what I was doing that wasn't beneficial. I've seen the health benefits to what I'm doing now. And it's really not, and that's their words where they're like, it's really not.
I feel the same. I feel the exact same thing. Like the way that I started eating post miscarriage, just being like, right, I'm doing this full out. And you know, maybe initially for the first few days, I was like, wow, I'm eating vegetables for every single meal. And I'm, you know, all this kind of stuff. And now I'm just like, well, that's just how I eat. And I miss them if I don't have like my veggie smoothie in the morning or something. I'm just like, oh.
Every time I get rebellious, and my idea of rebellious will be different to other people's rebellious, but like if I haven't eaten my fats and my protein and I'm like skip out because I don't know what I wanted to do instead, I'm like, I suffer because I'll be hungry like 2 hours later. And I'm like, oh, I don't love cooking, let's be honest. So now I'm like, oh no, I have to prepare another meal. Like if I just eat in my normal one, you know, like the formula that works for my body, you can always put in different ingredients and different foods. If I just followed the formula, I wouldn't be now back in the kitchen 2 hours later, but I wanted whatever it was. And so that's fine. You're allowed to do that too. But it just makes me laugh because I'm like, health is easy. When I don't follow the formula for my body, that's when it becomes extra effort and it becomes hard and it becomes all these things that I don't want in my life.
You get beans for the food that is not good for you, and then when you eat the food that's not good for you, then you feel like shit, and all of the things happen. Yeah.
So
Awesome. Well, I'm super like I'm so grateful for you being in my life and supporting me, because I've learned so much about my body and my health and how to, like, I'm still learning so much and there's still a lot to learn. but it's really amazing just being like, you know, whenever I see Shelley, she asks me questions, well, Penny, what do you think that is? And I'm like, oh, it's this, isn't it? You're like, it is. It's like, okay. And it's like, oh, but I wanted it to be this. And you're like, because that's the thing. Sometimes I do notice in myself, and I'm like, I know not to do this through the emotional work, but I'm not applying that sometimes. And I'm like, oh no, because it could be this and this and this. And I pick up all these stories instead of just actually going, oh no, because it's this, because I did that, and this means this, and blah, blah, blah. And so like, I know like my pea sticks, I don't know what you actually call them, alkalinity sticks or whatever they are, stay orange when I'm tired. And it's like, we just had daylight savings, and I was like adapting to that. And, you know, I've only just come on a break from the parasite cleanse. There's all these things going on. I'm like, how about you just chill out? Everything's going to be right.
Right. And the only reason, like, as a practitioner, I actually feel really mean putting it back onto the client. You know, like, I hate, like, I'm one of those people that would just tell you and get you to do things. But what I learned over all the years, and which is basically your message of what you're wanting with this series anyway, Penny, is by making you reflect on your own body, as mean as I feel, that's how you actually get empowered. And because at the end of the day, you know, we can say that I'm going to be a part of everyone's journey for the rest of their lives, but life happens. You know, I'm pregnant now, you know, it's just the classic example. So the best gift that I can actually give to anyone and anyone listening to tonight is your body knows, like, and that's why I put it back on Penny, and I'll always help. Penny knows that. Like, I'll always give the answer. Like, I'm not going to be mean. I want you to have good health. But it's like the quicker and the more you can tune into your own body and reflect on your own body and reflect on, that food made me feel this, good or bad. So obviously that food's good for me and that food's not. And I always tease clients because I'm like, well, you know, me sitting here, I know you all want the cheat sheet and I know you all want the rules. But I said, rules don't work in the moment, because you think to yourself in that moment when you want whatever it is that's going to make you tired and brain fog and feed the parasites because there's too much sugar, you're going to go, well, what does she know in her office anyway? She's not here right about now to tell me off, and she can't see what I'm doing, and I'm just not going to tell her. But if I've taught you, oh, that you're going to suffer and you're going to run to the toilet an hour later with loose stools and you're going to get bad brain fog and now you're going to get joint pain and you're not going to sleep tonight and you're going to get cramping and every other horrible thing. You're like, oh, I really do want you, but it's not worth all those consequences, so I'm not going to have you. That's not self-control, and that's not like your brain and you have to beat yourself up. That's literally, you know, the consequences that's going to happen with your health and your body. And if in the moment you're happy with those consequences, well, me too. It's empowered decisions, it's empowered health, you know, and you're allowed, you know, that's your health journey. But if that stops you because you don't want those consequences, well, that's way more powerful than me sitting here across in Zoom, telling you that, like, it's like the client that was willing to teach a dog to get off the bed during the night. That wasn't because I sat in my office telling her that a dog was giving her parasites. That was because she knew the power of how much better she felt without the parasites in her body and the energy and the brain and it was all the good things that she got. It wasn't because some practitioner sat in their office and was like, the dog's bad on the bed, and so it's like, once you get that and once you feel so good, myself included, like, clients say to me, how come you don't have sourdough bread? I ate that forever in my banking days. Like, I lived off that, and I'm like, because I get tired. I smell it and I want it just like everyone else. But now it could sit right beside me and I don't have great self-control at all. But I don't want to feel tired and I don't want to spend half a day in bed sleeping because I ate the bread. I don't want the consequences. So
it's like, if you eat this, someone's going to punch you in the face and break your nose. Do you want to do that? It's like, no, I don't. It is like that. That's how I think of it as well.
Yeah, but Penny, if it was just because you told me not to eat it, I'd be like, well, I'm going to eat it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other thing is, if you haven't, like you said before, if you haven't experienced wellness, good energy, lack of bloating, if you don't know what that feels like, then it's not enough of a motivation, because you're like, well, this is just my normal. This is how it is. What's the big deal?
Yeah.
I feel like, I know that we're super running over time, and I really appreciate your time and thank you so much. But just like 2 minutes, I feel like it's really important just to mention how much our skin absorbs and how important it is to be careful of products that we put on our skin.
Yes. I love that question, Penny. So, well, a couple of things here is, first of all, go back a second. And if you're getting any skin symptoms in general, so that could be acne, that could be red dots, that could be raised bumps, that could be pimples, that could be eczema, that could be redness, like anything showing up on your skin, that's already telling you as the individual, that your liver is overloaded, right? And our liver is key for clearing out the garbage in our bodies. Basically, it does 400 other functions, so it's very busy, that organ. Hence why I've focused on helping clients with their livers on purpose, because it's a busy organ. So if you're getting a symptom in your skin, now what that means is, our skin is our largest organ. And at the end of the day, our bodies are actually incredibly lazy. So they take the easy option all the time. So if any organ in your body is overloaded, but your liver in particular, if that's overloaded, it's going to flush out all the toxins through your skin. So it bypasses your whole digestive system, which is what should happen. What should happen is a whole system, which I won't go into, but basically the internal system should work properly, and then you poo everything out, all the toxins out. When that whole system isn't working properly, and we do it through our skin, we override all those steps. There's a few of those steps, and we just flush it out through our skin. So that's already giving us an idea that our body's overburdened, right? So any skin symptoms is just telling us that we don't need to feel bad about it. And like, it really breaks my heart. I have to bite my tongue all the time because I see a lot of young toddlers, and you watch them with eczema or red skin. So back to your question, Penny, when you said, when does this happen, or with our children, I'm like, their bodies are already showing you that they're super inflamed. The parent doesn't know, or the parent isn't listening, but I see it, just with friends out and about in the city, and I have to be like, Shelley, shut your mouth. Don't say anything. And so I don't, so equally, so one thing is we detoxify through our skin, but also back to the skin being the biggest organ and laziness. So as a health practitioner, we equally use this to our advantage. And anytime we can give somebody something straight on their tongue or straight on their skin, compliance is actually really low getting clients to do stuff on their skin, believe it or not. They'll put on like lotions or potions of chemicals, but they won't put on their supplements. I know that I'm going to basically give them a hit to their bloodstream really fast, because we absorb things through our skin instantly into the blood. Like, the skin is the barrier, but if you're putting it onto the skin, there is no longer a barrier, and it's going straight through your bloodstream, and your blood goes throughout, because of the heart, it's pumping that throughout your whole body. So we absorb stuff almost instantly. It doesn't mean to say that you put on I was just thinking of like a product, say a face product or whatever. It doesn't mean that you'll put the face product on of chemicals, if it's chemicals. It doesn't mean you're going to feel tired straight away. You know, I'd been putting on Dermalogica and MAC makeup for a decade of my banking days and loved the stuff. I was religious, thought I was really good and looking after myself. And, you know, buying the top stuff so my skin was going to be beautiful and I was doing all the right things. Little did I know. And so it wasn't like any of those 10 years that I ever think to myself, man, I get tired putting on my MAC makeup. You know, I never had that moment ever. But instantly, every day that I was putting that on, I was making the liver, and most of our livers aren't working properly, work harder because I was just literally putting chemicals in. And most people that I've worked with over the years, their liver isn't working properly. So we're pumping in all these chemicals. And now we've got no way of flushing them out. So where are they going? They stay in our bodies. And so it's a huge, so it takes like an instant. We're literally absorbing it instantly. But yet most of us, our internal bodies aren't working properly to flush it out. So it's not coming in and going out equally. And, you know, equally, you know, if you do these things as a one-off, but your body's working so healthy, like so well, don't be fearful and don't stress about this at all. Because like, you know, anytime you've got a 1-for-1, who cares? Like, you know, if you apply it because you're somewhere and you need to, and then you're flashing it straight out again, or you're taking support to help you or doing things to help you, sauning or Epsom salt bathing, whatever, no judgment here. We don't need to live in fear, you know, so don't feel that at all. But it's more just a lot of us, myself included, had no awareness. Like I say, like you can laugh now, but I thought buying top quality makeup and like I was looking after my body. Like that was genuinely what I believed. I was shocked when I learned that I was actually poisoning it, you know, and I mean it like genuinely shocked. And so like anything that's got chemicals or toxins in is going straight into your bloodstream, which now your body has to work harder to eliminate it. And if you're feeling tired already, well, you don't have great energy, is the honest truth. I'll tell you as a practitioner right now. So you don't have the energy to pump out all these chemicals. You know, like you don't have that extra energy to pump out those toxins and get it all in and out as fast as possible. You're storing it. And I get clients, and even when I met my husband in the beginning, it was quite a good reality check when I, you know, spent 24 hours with him. And I thought, I watched, like actively watched all the chemicals that he got exposed to in 24 hours. And like, so this motivated a whole exercise that I did with clients. I just noted them down, like not to judge him at all. I was just really curious. And I was like, let's watch him from the morning to the following day, where all his chemical exposure is coming from. Because then I was like, I can use this for work. I turned it into like this 24-hour worksheet that I get clients to do, where I get them to note down over 24 hours the chemicals that they're exposed to. And it's not a judgment piece. I wasn't judging Jeff. I was literally just really curious. And same with clients, where it's not a judgment piece, but in my banking days, I was so used to my routines. Nothing was going to break me until I would have noted it down and got the awareness. And once again, it doesn't mean you have to throw out everything at once, but you've got the awareness. So then you just make changes. And it's really fascinating because a lot of people will say to me, well, where did these toxins come from? And when you do an example, like a 24-hour just journal, I made it into a fun worksheet, but you can just write it on a piece of paper or your phone, and you start to see it. You're like, and that's just 24 hours. Times that by 7, times that by 52, you know, times that by 10 years, 20 years, and all the ways it creeps in, and then go, and I'm not doing anything to support my liver and gallbladder, which is what you touched on. Plus, you've probably got parasites or other things in your body or whatever, dysregulated nervous system. And we're like, this is how we got to where we are. You know, and once again, I don't look at past me, you know, and I like spend all the money on the expensive toothpaste. Like I thought price equaled good quality, and I was looking after my body. That was what I'd learned. And so I was once again shocked when all of these, once I broke down every, like, you know, you do your skincare and then you look at your nighttime routines. I had all the routines because that's what you're meant to do. I was a perfect consumer. You know, I had the morning routine, the nighttime routine, the once a week routine, the hair treatments and the hair routines, and then the mouth, all the mouth products, you know, like, And my favorite, I was religious with this, the Listerine, you know, the mouthwash. Like I was like doing it all because all of those things were meant to be making me healthy. And in my own way, back in my banking days, admittedly, I wasn't willing to acknowledge like my energy or anything like that. But in my own way, I truly did want to look after my health. I just learned these very weird messages. So, you know, I'd go to the expensive, like I remember telling my mom, I was like, I don't know how this happened to me. I went to the expensive grocery store, like somehow the expensive grocery store, even though like I was still eating chemicals and it was not organic. Like I didn't even know what organic was. But I was like, but mom, I didn't go to the cheap grocery store, you know, and I was like so shocked because like that was what I'd learned. And so I thought that I was really like that was half my problem when I got so unwell was I was like, but I really thought I was looking after myself, like genuinely did.
Because marketing is powerful. Marketing and that whole thing that a lot of people talk about, greenwashing things, whether you just change a few words, change the color of the packaging, and we just look at it and we go, wow, this is literally good for not just my body, but my soul. I'm going to buy this and everything's going to get better. And actually, we're just overloading our livers, which overloads our systems. We get tired, our health breaks down, we age quicker, we can potentially cause miscarriages, not cause them, but the environment, I think.
And Tina, I'll just tell you this quickly. My dad's an accountant too. And so he does a budget for like every line item. It's really boring. Anyway, so my mom had a budget line item for her skincare. And so initially when I got sick and my parents had to look after me anyway, dad learned that I had to go organic. And he was like, well, that's going to cost us more. Like he loves me, don't believe me. And he's still organic now. But his initial thing was this price resistance, which a lot of us can have this price resistance to. But now he's like, it saves us money. Like those natural products for all the skincare and this, like it's all the same thing. It's always some sort of oil. Like this is my dad's take on it. I love my dad to pieces, but he's kind of funny at times. And he's like, now your mom needs like one oil for the skin, the hair, the like everything. Like it seems to fix everything. And you can probably put it in your salad at the same time. But like, and he's just teasing, but it's kind of like that because it's such good quality that you could eat it. Like whether you're eating it or putting it on your skin, it's the same thing. It's all going into our body anyway. But he laughs because he's like, he had so much resistance the initial price point. But my mum was spending way more money on these, and was to this day and isn't anymore, on all these expensive skincares and this thing and this serum. And like he'd have to buy some special serum for under the eyes for Christmas, you know. And it was like, and then the hair coloring and all of these things. And he was like, so on its own, it seemed very expensive. But when we started looking at the budget, the actual, and after a few months, obviously initially it was expensive, but after a few months, we started noticing that the prices overall, they're ahead on their budget. It saves some money. Like he loves it. He's like, A, I get all my health benefits, but B, it saves me money. Like it's cheaper to be healthy and eat organic and do all the healthy things. He's like, other than the costs in terms of just the like his health, but he's like, it's amazing. Like, so, you know, and he had a lot of resistance, even though his daughter was sick, he was still like, but this is costing us so much money, you know, and but now he's like, it doesn't, like it's cheaper. You know, yeah. And so he's shocked, but that's because he looks at the overall, like he's never going to say that organic's cheaper food wise, but you know, because it's not, and that's fine. But when he looks at all the different line items that they were spending on their well-being, whatever that looks like for all of us, so that's different for all of us. But when he looks at all of that, and then even like, since my mom's gone natural and so much healthier, you go through like her product, she goes through, like she doesn't go through as fast anymore because she doesn't need as much, because she's not trying to cover up this red blotchy skin that she used to have. And I say that, you know, my mom would laugh and say the same thing because her liver wasn't working properly. So she went through like foundation and like, you know, so much, she'd have to put on so much every day. So it's like not a direct cost when you think about it. But because my dad loves his budgets, he was like, well, we see that the foundation cost is going down. You know, she bought less because she doesn't have to cover up this red skin anymore, you know? And so indirectly, like he says, it saves him so much money. Not that he's about it for that, But it's really interesting because a lot of people's resistance with health is it's expensive. And I'm not saying that it's not initially to start with, but when you take in the whole thing of the skin and all the products and everything else and what you need to use when you're in health, it's quite a different measure of, is it actually expensive now? And that will be different for all of us depending on what we were doing and what our budgets were to begin with. But a lot of people on reflection, it will say that it's cheaper.
Amazing. Oh, Shelley, thank you so much for everything that you have shared with us today. And I just think that this is going to be really amazing for so many people to create awareness, to give them a place to start with the nervous system. And I know there's so many things online. You mentioned many things, but there's also loads of things people can look up online, give them a good amount of time to try them out and see if they're noticing a difference in their lives, if their bellies feel better after they eat, if they're sleeping better, if they're waking up feeling more refreshed, if they're happier, if they're lighter within themselves. All of that kind of stuff is going to be a really good thing to note, right? If their skin is feeling better, more not so dry, all of that kind of stuff.
Absolutely, Penny.
Yeah, and then they can get some support for parasite cleansing if that's where they're feeling they need to go as well. Awesome. So yeah, anyway, Shelley, thank you so much. Did you have any possibility, just in case, I know that you are rammed full of clients, which is not a word we use in New Zealand, it's a British thing I picked up, where you have packed with clients.
I like that, Ranch. I'm going to take that one. I think New Zealanders would find it aggressive.
I started using it when I came back from London, and people would look at me like I was really strange, and I'm like, what we say here. So very full of clients. However, is there something that if someone did want to reach out and to see you, that you can offer?
Well, Penny, you'll laugh because you've probably given me this feedback over the years, and on reflection, it just makes me laugh so much. But I've always done this 21-day liver detox twice a year based on the seasons. But the feedback's always been like, could you do 10 days as well? Like instead, like 21 days is too hard, too expensive, too all these things, right? But 10 days would be perfect. And so I was like, well, I need to be able to promise return on investment that people can get results after 10 days. And anyway, after long story short, after mapping this for the past 3 years of anecdotal evidence, people get results after 7 days, but by 10 days, definitely. And so finally, and it just makes me laugh because I always talk about there should be no barriers to health. Like I've been preaching this stuff for years, right? Like there should be no, like I can make it easy. Like I have all these things that I tell people and I truly believed. And yet I was like, but 21 days is not easy. I'm stuck in this stupid dogma that it's like China, and it's all true. Like all the things around why I did the 21 day, like the numbers and what it means and all the rest, all true. But it's a huge barrier to entry, cost wise, time wise, not knowing you're going to get results, never having worked with me, like the commitment, like all of these things. And so I find it so funny that I didn't pivot earlier. Like what was, we all have our blind spots, myself included. So this will be the reminder for the rest of my life professionally. This was my blind spot where I'm like, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy for anyone. But because of that, I've now, which will really, like, people will 100% get results. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it. But we're going to almost every month offer even while I'm on maternity leave, the 10-day detox. I've called it a 10-day detox challenge, where you'll basically learn to eat for your hormones, for your adrenals, for your liver health, like all of those good things. That 21 days 100% cements it, but you will walk away with health results, and then you obviously gonna have to put in more effort applying it on your own afterwards, because those habits won't necessarily be cemented. But that is, and so we're launching, it's definitely going to be launched for the very first time in January for the new year, but we're going to do like a beta run, which will be more hands-on and stuff end of this month.
Oh, amazing. That's really cool. And so if they want to do that, do they email office at Shelley Gawith?
Yes, so they do good work, Penny. So it's on the website
Cool.
already. So it's there hidden away. So, but it is just called the 10-day detox challenge. But they can just email office at shelleygawith.com as well.
Awesome. Okay, cool. And I'll put the details below. I'll get the links from you and put them below so that anybody can
It will help you look at every area, like the skin, the like doing the worksheets, and like there's no judgment. You can enter in at any level where you're comfortable and you'll get a result. So anything that I always do, I always think, especially when you're going to the mass marketing, what is the baseline level of compliance? Remember that to get a result for somebody. And so then it's just a case of how many results do you want in those 10 days? But even if you just do the baseline, you will get an amazing result.
Awesome. Well, I've done your 21-day detox twice before, and I think it's awesome. I really loved it, and it's influenced my eating going forwards as well. Really,
I
really
know,
awesome.
right? Isn't
Yeah.
it? And the reason why I love it, even though, and anyone that's done it before will laugh, because you know that the amount of flack I get as a practitioner, because everyone hates their lives initially. Like they're like, we hate this. And as a practitioner, you're like, why would I make my life so complicated? But the truth is it's because it's experiential health. And when we've talked the whole time, Penny, about if you can connect back to your body. And I'm a total control freak when it comes to helping clients. So basically, the control freak practitioner has taken everything off you for 10 days, not literally, but I'm giving you all the goodness and all the good things that at the end of the 10 days, you've learned all the tools. So now if you feel something from eating a food, you're really going to feel something, right? So if something's causing you inflammation or penny inflammation or whoever it is, you're going to feel it. That's the whole point of it. And so then you get to choose where you go with that information. And so that's the whole point around it, where it's like, sure, we can keep teaching to the head and knowledge, and I'll do that. But Penny, the funny part is the best feedback that I can ever get is when people tell me that my talk was too easy. It was dumbed down, like when I do lots of, and I'm like, yeah. So you understand it and you get empowered and you use it. Because sure, I can talk to intellectual, but intellectual doesn't get us health results. Like if that did, then we'd all be healthy. But if we can talk to your body's experience and your body and empower that and teach you those tools. And so one of the things on it now that I've added in for the 10-day one is the P strips. So we're going to look at your nervous system. I'm going to make it experiential. You might complain for 10 days about how much you hate the P strips, but you're going to get the message that your nervous system's a little bit not working properly, because repetitive learning the same information. And so it's looking at all those. I basically was like, well, what are all the levels of good health? What do we need to do? And how do we fix people as fast as possible? But bring awareness and empower people with these tools.
It sounds amazing. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm excited that you're offering that. So yeah, I think if anybody is curious in the least, then definitely get in touch with Shelley and look into doing that. Awesome, Shelley. Thank you so much. It's just been amazing. I've learned lots from this talk as well. So I know that people are going to get so much out of it. And if someone is recovering from a miscarriage or wanting to avoid one, it's going to help them so much as well. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Penny, and thank you for doing this and sharing about your health and your journey too. So thank you.
You're welcome.